Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, SAP with IK. Hope you're all doing good. So today's topic will be on the repetitive manufacturing, or also called as the REM. So you know that the manufacturing process in SAP is basically differentiated based on the industry or maybe the manufacturing process across various manufacturing methods, right? So we have the discrete manufacturing, we have process manufacturing, and then we have repetitive manufacturing. So in the discrete manufacturing, we typically apply that particular business process to industries where the manufacturing of automobiles or the machineries or maybe the equipments takes place. And coming to the process industry, we apply this business scenario in case of pharmaceutical manufacturing or maybe a life science or maybe an drug manufacturing company, right? In the same way, the repetitive manufacturing, it is basically used where we continuously keep on manufacturing the same product for a certain period of time. So one example of that would be, let's take the power industry or the industry which basically generates electricity or the power. So they keep on generating the power. It could be through hydro, or it could be through solar, or maybe the wind, or it could be a thermal power. So there, they keep on generating the electricity. So in that scenario, we are not going to create a production order or a process order. Instead, we will go with the process of the repetitive manufacturing by leveraging the functionalities that we have in SAP provided through the planned orders. So the confirmation, the production, the consumption, and the goods receipt of that particular finished product will happen only through the planned order. Okay. So another example could be, let's say you're manufacturing a particular machine. So your industry, it basically manufactures only one product on a seasonal basis. So let's say for 6 months you only manufacture the product A, right? So this huge quantity, I mean, there is no change in the bill of material, there is no change in the manufacturing process, but you just constantly keep on manufacturing the same product for several months, right? So in that case, we can actually use the functionalities of the repetitive manufacturing. So now let's see what are the configurations needed and what is the master data setup to be required in order to enable the repetitive manufacturing. So let's get started. So in this slide, we'll discuss about the configuration setup needed to activate the repetitive manufacturing process. So the first one would be the creation and the definition of the repetitive manufacturing profile. So in the repetitive manufacturing profile, we basically define the goods issue with the backflush and also the goods receipt posting at the time of confirming the planned order or the activity in it. And also we define few settings related to the corrections in case there are few errors on the goods movement. So since we are going with the backflush concept, so we would have to maintain these settings in the configuration itself on how to correct those errors in case of incorrect goods movements. And then the configuration related to the cost accounting, and then the reduction of the planned order. So how should this basically happen? So let's say you have created a planned order for 2 months where your plan is basically to manufacture 10,000 units of a product A. So then as soon as you keep on posting the confirmations on the particular planned order, so the quantity it gets increasing in the inventory for the same product A based on the goods receipt. So in that case, how should the planned order reduction take place? And also there could be an instance where you have by mistakenly uh, posted a confirmation or a goods receipt and you would like to revert that particular transaction. So in that case, how should the planned order quantity be reverted back to its original stage? So those settings are basically enabled or maintained in this planned order reduction. And then we have the firming logic. So basically, whenever you create a planned order through MRP, we do see a firming indicator, right? So what should be the logic for those firming settings on the planned order? And then the creation of a new plant order in case of reversing a particular transaction or the confirmation that has been posted. And then the material requirements. So how should the dependent requirements or the components under this particular uh, product should be managed through MRP. And then we have the configuration related to the movement types. So the movement types are slightly different when compared with the other scenarios on the discrete manufacturing and the process industry. So once we are done with the maintenance of the repetitive manufacturing profile, the next step is to define the scheduling parameters for the planned orders. So we typically maintain the scheduling parameters for the production orders and the process orders in discrete and process manufacturing industry, right? So the same way, we will also define the scheduling parameters for the planned orders in case of a repetitive manufacturing scenario. And then we have the next configuration that basically deals with the staging of materials. So now here the main purpose of the planned order is basically to reduce the user intervention into the system and also to reduce the activities that the user should perform on a daily basis. So by using this repetitive manufacturing planned orders, so we can actually automate three uh, activities at the same time. So that would be the confirmation of the operation, and it would be the consumption of the components, and also the goods receipt of the finished product into the inventory. So those settings will be maintained in the material staging. And the next one, we have the master data setup. So here in the master data, we will have to leverage the functionality of the MRP4 view in the material master, and then define the uh, repetitive manufacturing profile that we have configured here. So this repetitive manufacturing profile will be enabled and activated in this MRP4 view of the material master for the finished product. And then we have to create the rate routing. So usually in the discrete manufacturing and the process manufacturing, we will create a routing for the discrete and the master recipe for the process manufacturing. But whereas in case of a repetitive manufacturing scenario, we will have to create a rate routing using the transaction CA21. And then the production version plays a key role here because whenever we create a production version for the finished product, we will have to activate it with the repetitive manufacturing profile for this particular production version. So only then the production version will be copied to the planned order. So now let's get into SAP and see the configuration steps and also the master data followed by a scenario. So here I am in SAP. So I'm going into the SPRO and then the IMG path. So we will have to scroll down to the production. And under this production, we have a node for the repetitive manufacturing. So if we expand it, we do see the options for various activities or the configuration steps. So the repetitive manufacturing profile, it would be under the node control. And here we are going to use this functionality, use this option to define the repetitive manufacturing profile. So we have two options here. One is to create the repetitive manufacturing profile using an assistant, and the second option is to directly define the repetitive manufacturing profile if you have some knowledge on the parameters that should be maintained in that particular profile. So if I go into the creation of the REM profile or the repetitive manufacturing profile using the assistant, so then this is how it looks. So here we have two options, whether the profile should be part of the make to stock or the make to order. Okay, so now let's say I choose this as a make to stock, and if you have any template that is predefined for the repetitive manufacturing profile, then you can use it. If not, we can go to the next step. And also you do have these options where we have the recommendations and also the meaning of these fields that we see here. So once we go to the next step, we have the reporting point processing option. So it says that for make to stock production, you have the option of working with reporting points. Select one of the following. So no reporting points, or mandatory, or optional. So in the same way, the assistant, it basically guides us along with the definitions and also the usage of these particular options that we see here while configuring the REM profile. And then we have the posting activities when backflushing in the repetitive manufacturing. So should we post the activities or no activity posting is required? So in that way we can choose the options and keep on proceeding with the configuration screen. So for now I'm going to exit this, and let's go to the second option to define the repetitive manufacturing profile. So here we have these profiles. So let's take an example of this profile 002. So in this profile, we have basically three tabs. One is the control data 1, control data 2, and then the movement types. So in the control data 1, like we discussed earlier, we do have the option for the goods issue with the backflush at GR posting. It means that whenever you post a confirmation or maybe the goods receipt of that particular planned order, the goods should automatically be issued for the corresponding components against the planned order. So if that is required, you can activate the GI backflush at GR posting. And the RP confirmation is basically for the reporting points that we are not going to use here. And then we have the error correction for backflushing. So here we have these options: create cumulated post-processing records and execute correction in dialog mode. So this is optional or mandatory. So here if we choose this option, create cumulated post-processing records, so if there are any movements or maybe the confirmation or whenever you post the confirmation on the planned order, in case there are any errors with the inventory or the components, so then it would create a post-processing record entry. Sorry, I'll have to activate this. Okay. And then to the cost accounting. So for the activities that we define in the rate routing for each and every operation, so should those be part of the cost estimate for the material or not? So these are the options that we have in the control data 1. So now going to the control data 2. So here we have the reduction of the planned orders. So if we activate the reduce planned order assigned to version, so it means that the quantity, based on the goods issue quantity or the consumption quantity of the components, the planned order quantity will also be reduced automatically. So the reduction period, we can maintain this in terms of the calendar days. And then the firming logic, it is as always firm. So the plan orders created in the repetitive manufacturing scenario should always have a firming indicator, so that the plan order will not be disturbed or modified during the next MRP run. So if you are using a planning time fence in the MRP, so then you can choose the third option to firm the planned orders within the planning time fence. And then the creation of planned orders when reversing. So whenever there is a reversal process done on the planned order or the confirmations, so then the planned order should be created for what quantity. So let's say the GR has been incorrectly posted on that particular day. So then we can choose this option to create planned orders when reversing for the GR amount of the current day. So let's say you have goods received like 1,000 pieces on this particular day, and which is an incorrect one, and then you have to reverse that particular goods receipt. So in that case, a planned order will be created for the total quantity that you have reversed on that particular day. And then for the materials requirement, we do have these options: the stock determination rule and the batch search procedure. So let's say here your components are basically batch managed, and you would like to implement a search procedure for that, so that the determination would happen during the consumption process. So there you can enable the batch search procedure and also the stock determination rule. So I'm going to create make another video on this particular topic, the stock determination rule. So this basically helps to prioritize the stock in a particular storage location. So let's say you have 3 storage locations in your plant, and 3 have sufficient stock for the same component. And now you would like to prioritize the consumption of the component on a basis of the storage location. So then we can give a priority for the storage location 1. You would like to give the priority as 1, and storage location 2 will have the second priority, and storage location 3 as its third priority. So the consumption of the stock will happen in based on the priorities assigned to the storage locations. So that's a brief about the stock determination rule, but we'll discuss in more detail in the upcoming video. And then the third tab is the movement types. So here the movement types, if you see, for the goods issue we have the standard 261, and for the reversal we do have 262. But whereas for the goods receipt we typically have 101 and 102 for the reversal, right? But here in this case we will use the movement type as 131 for the goods receipt and 132 for the reversal of the goods receipt. And similarly for the scrap posting and reversal, and byproduct posting and reversal. So in case you are going with a make to order scenario, you do have these standard movement types available. So that would vary again based on the type of confirmation or the type of plan order you have actually created, if it is a make to stock or a make to order. So this is about the configuration part. So now let me go to the material master. So this is my material for today's example. So if I go into the material master in the MRP4 view, so in the MRP4 view, we basically assign the repetitive manufacturing profile under this particular section. And also you have to activate the checkbox here for the repetitive manufacturing. So only then the system will be aware that this particular material in the plant is part of the repetitive manufacturing scenario. And the same way, if we go into the details of this production version, so my production version that I'm going to use now is the version 0002. And if I go into the details of it, so here we have assigned the rate routing, okay, but not the routing. And then we assign the bill of material. So here we will have to assign the checkbox for the repetitive manufacturing allowed, REM allowed, it should be checked. And also you can define the production line in which the production activity takes place. So in the repetitive manufacturing, it is not that the production should happen only in one work center. It could be a sequence of work centers, right? So, or it could be a production line depending on the set of operations. So if you have created it as a production line, then you can assign it over here in the production version. Okay, so now let's go to the rate routing. So I'll copy this. CA22. So 21 is to create. So in the rate routing, I have one operation with the work center, which is basically my production line, and we have assigned the control key as PP08. So these are the settings we have in the control key PP08, where the scheduling is possible, and also the determination of capacity requirements is activated, and the time tickets can be printed, and then the confirmations are maintained as mandatory as the confirmation is required. And again, you have these options for the WIP batch if you'd like to allow the goods receipt or not. So, but this is not a mandatory thing. So this is about the rate routing. And here we have the bill of material for the finished product. So these two components have been activated with the backflush indicator. Why? Because we are planning to go with a automatic goods movement or the backflush scenario along with the auto GR. Okay. So now let's go into the scenario. Let's try to create one. Okay, so right now the stock situation here is the available stock is 20 pieces, and let's create a plan independent requirement. Okay, so before we create a PIR, let me check if we have the strategy group here. Okay, there is no strategy group. Let me assign the strategy group since it is a make to stock. Okay, MRP3, and choose the planning strategy as 10 for the make to stock. So assign 10 and then save it. Now go to MD61 and let me define this for the current year. So here I would like to produce, let's say, 100 pieces, but in real time it would be a lot more. Okay, and this is only an example. 150, 200, 250 and 300. So my planning is basically for the 5 months. That is fine, and save it. Let's check in MD04 if we have these PIRs. Yes, we do have the PIRs activated here, and based on the available stock of 20 and the first PIR of 100, it has basically consumed the 20 and we are left over with 80, and the next net requirement calculation, it tells us that the final requirement quantity is 980 pieces, right, by the month of August. So now I'm going to run MRP. Okay, so MRP has been executed. Now refresh the list. So we could see there are planned orders generated through the MRP run. Okay, so here if you look at the planned order, we do have the uh, suffix as RS, right? So usually we see the planned orders with the suffix as LA for the stock, right? But here in this case, it would show as a RS, as the run schedule. And then the order type, it is PE, and the procurement type is E, and this is basically coming from the master data. Okay, so now since we have these plan orders created for the PIRs, so the next step is basically to execute these planned orders. Okay, so usually what we do in discrete and repetitive manufacturing is we just double click on this. I mean, one of the option to convert these into a process order or the production order is to double click, and we see the pop-up window here where you have those multiple options for the conversion. But here in this case, since we have the order type or the planned order type as run schedule, we don't see those options, but because we are not converting this planned order to any of those elements like the production order or the planned order, right? So this is where we will start our execution. So let's say in this particular day, so let's pick this one for the month of May. So I'm going to pick this and go to the transaction MFBF. So MFBF is the transaction where you basically confirm the planned order. So you go to this transaction and just type in the planned order number. Sorry, it is 97033. 97033. That's it. And automatically system will pick the entire data from the planned order itself. And since it is a make to stock scenario, we are in the tab of make to stock. Okay, so now if I look at the confirmed quantity, it shows as 80 pieces on this particular day. So what is this? So here we can see that based on the net requirement calculation, so the planned order 97033 has been created for the month of April, right? Why? Because based on the rescheduling message, I can say that this planned order will meet the requirement of the April PIR of 100 pieces. Though the requirement is of 100 pieces, since we have 20 available in the stock, so the balance or the required quantity is 80 pieces. So based on that, system has actually created the planned order quantity as 80. Okay, and again the subsequent net requirement calculation for the second planned order, it has a requirement of 150 pieces, and so it has created this quantity of 150 on the second planned order that goes for the month of May. And whereas the planned order 97033, it goes for the month of April, right? So here we have this 80. So let's say in this day, in this particular shift, we will just confirm 40 pieces. Okay, and here we do have a few options where you can choose the radio buttons: assembly backflush, component backflush, and activity backflush. So here, if I choose the assembly backflush, so let's see how it works. So now click on post with correction of components or activities. So then it shows you the complete list of components that are part of the bill of material. Okay, and here, yeah, that is the complete list. But in case, okay, in case you don't want to go to that particular screen and just use the save, you can directly click on this save option or the post. So in the assembly backflush, if I go into the details, we can see that the movement types are basically for the goods receipt, it is 131, goods issued 261, and so on, right? So now I can hit on save. It says that select the item you want to correct first. If no item is selected, the system will continue processing. So it says that based on the bill of material, to manufacture or yield out 80 pieces of the finished product, which is RB120, we need RT320 of 960 pieces. So where we have a deficit of stock. So the deficit is basically of 200 pieces for this particular material. So I don't want to post it. So RT 320. So I don't want this to be posted. So I'm going to delete it. Now go back. Do you want to post the document? Yes. Now it shows that the GR and GI with the document and activities are posted. So we just entered the quantity in the yield, and based on the configurations that we have maintained in the repetitive manufacturing profile, the automatic goods issue or the backflushing of components and also the goods receipt of the finished product has taken place at the same time along with the confirmation. So we do have this document number available. So now let me go to MD04 and do a refresh. So what we expect here is to see the increase in inventory of this material for 80 pieces, and along with the available stock, it should be 100 as the available quantity, and this particular planned order should be reduced, right? We should not see 97033 anymore. So let me refresh. So that is what happened. So the available stock is now 100 and the planned order has been reduced. So let's use the second planned order where we post a partial confirmation. So again, going back to MFBF, just type in the planned order. Instead of 150, I'm going to post only 50. And the consumption of the components will also be calculated according to the yield quantity of 50 pieces. So now let's say I go to the details. Okay, I check the movement types and all, that is fine. And then save it. So here we have a deficit. So I'm going to ignore that. So backlogs from backflush were created or changed. That's an information message. though we have these goods issue and the GR posted against that particular planned order. So now let's go back to MD04 and click on refresh. So here my inventory should be 150 now, and this planned order should be reduced from 150 to 100, right? So let's do that. So 97034, it has been reduced to 100, and the inventory has been increased to 150. So if I would like to see the documents for this planned order, I can just copy this and go to MFBF. So here I paste it. It shows the remaining quantity, and click on documents. And then we have the posting date, and choose these options as a make to stock, and the posting date is the current date. Sorry. And then execute. So here we can see the documents that have been posted on this particular day. So if you like to reverse this, then you can choose this, select this material document and click on reverse. So it says that the post-processing record exists for that. So here we can see that if you see this particular icon with the warnings, it says that there are few errors in the automatic goods movement, right? So this is the second planned order that we have used, and this is the first planned order that we have confirmed for the total quantity of 80 pieces. So now if I go into the details of this particular material document, sorry, just double click on that. So here we can see that we have the material code. Let me bring in the material code here. Okay, let me paste it here. So here the material is the finished product, the first one. So here we see the movement type as 131 that has been posted while goods receipt, and the rest of these are the 261 movements for the components. Then we do have this order created for this. Let's take a look at this particular order. So this order is basically the CO order. So whenever the confirmation or maybe the goods movements are posted against the repetitive manufacturing planned order, so there will be a CO order created by default. So if we go into the details of the CO order, there we can see the settlement rules. So here the settlement receiver is the finished product, and then you have the assignments, and then the system status. So this is something to be taken care by the costing team basically. So that is how the repetitive manufacturing process basically works in SAP.